right, everyone, welcome back to another Ultimates edition of the Fwooshcast. I am pleased, as always, to have with us once again Brian Flynn, the founder of Super 7, because we have some Ultimates topics, some specifics topics to talk about tonight. Brian, I know you're busy, man, but thanks again for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
I know we talked not too long ago, but as I'm sure you would be able to tell everyone, things move fast, and there are some things that we need to get to as far as updates, primarily about this new pre-order that you guys have up and going, and then maybe touch on some shipping updates for some of the other things. So if you're game, let's just get right to it.
Let's go.
All right. So the big thing right now, the new pre-order, brand new property for Ultimates. We have Silverhawks. The Silverhawks have taken flight, and it seems like people have been asking and even begging for Silverhawks ever since you guys started Thundercats. So how does it feel to finally have this first pre-order out there in the world? Exciting, relieved, anxious, those things?
No, it's great to finally get it out there. We've been working on it for quite some time. Obviously, we knew sort of coming out that it wasn't going to be exactly what everyone was looking for initially. So, which we're going to go through, which I'm sure you have a laundry list of questions, of which 5 of them I already can predict. But, I'm really excited about it. I mean, as we got closer and closer, there was a lot of trepidation around Monstar, especially because it's like, you want him to be in scale, which means he has to be gigantic, but that means he's going to be expensive, and the line's already expensive. Can we really do that? And talking to a few of the people that we worked with, we're like, okay, maybe you bring him down some, so it's not quite so big and everything. And everybody's just like, look, if we're going there, let's just go there. Like, don't give me, a Monstar that's only 1.5 inches taller. Like, I need a big Monstar next to my Silverhawks. And that's just tricky because, my job isn't to go out there and say, how much will people pay for it? $85 is a lot of money. That said, it is a gigantic figure. So it's a little tricky. Like, we had a lot of hand wringing over, do we concede and bring it down to bring the price down? What do we do? How do we find that happy medium? And in the end, it's sort of what won out was make it as big as it needs to be.
Well, toy fans, collectors are never all of the same mind. But of all the things that we do have to talk about and discuss as far as this first series go, it seems like collectively people are pretty much on the same page that it's a premium price of a premium price. But I've been seeing the overall consensus that people are glad that you went the way that you went to do him the right way. Because, I mean, he's the biggest Ultimates figure thus far by a long shot at this point, right?
He's way bigger than Mumm-Ra.
Wow. Well, that's awesome. So we know he is, one of the anchor characters for the first one, and of course Quicksilver was going to be the other obvious one, I think, for our first series. But Buzzsaw and Steelheart kind of round out the assortment. How did this first series kind of coalesce and take shape?
It really wasn't that complicated. It was like, obviously, yes, Monstar is going to, be the big bad guy. Quicksilver's the leader. You got to have those two. And then we're just talking about who else would we want. It's like, well, Monstar makes the most sense. Buzzsaw makes the most sense to us. And he's a really cool character. It's a really cool design. That would be a lot of fun. And then, the girls never get made. So I'm always like, no, we're gonna make Steelheart first. So let's go there. And then there was a lot of discussion, quite honestly, on do you do first Monstar without the armor before he becomes, later Monstar, and we're just like, no, later Monstar. We got to go with armored Monstar.
Well, I think you guys made the right decision there, but I'm going to catch you back on that later because I quite like the other version of Monstar too. So don't want to see him get left out as far as that goes. But when you talk about the characters, and really for Silverhawks, there are 2 sources, right? There is the cartoon and there are the vintage figures.
lean into the big question, right as you lean into the
Yeah,
big question.
I know it always happens that way. But
All right, here we go.
when you talk about Silverhawks, there are two, real source materials, right? The original cartoon and the vintage toy line. And these figures, there's a lot of discussion about that. These figures are obviously based off of the cartoon series. So the first thing, because I know we've talked about it, but I think I want to get that out there first, is that the original toys were vac metal, right? And those had a finish that's complicated because it has to do with the type of plastic that's used and articulation and whatnot. But can you just kind of give us I guess the not the closing thought on that, but the thought as to why this was the direction that you guys went in terms of going with the cartoon source material?
I think there's sort of two or three questions within that question. Mm-hmm. So let's start with the easy answer, which is obviously we went back and said, okay, animation accurate Silverhawks have never been made, mm-hmm. because the toys were not animation accurate. The toys.
Does cats have anything to do with that too?
We just kind of went back and just were like, where would we like to start? Mm-hmm. Let's be clear. The original Silverhawks toys are fantastic toys. With the vac metal plating, the spring-loaded arms. Everything. They were really, really great toys. And quite honestly, I would put you out that 80% of the people into Silverhawks have more memories of the toys than they actually do the TV show, because the TV show was on for such a short amount of time, and it's not really readily available right now unless you want to pay. Mm-hmm. So people's knee-jerk gut emotional reaction to Silverhawks is vac metal.
Yeah.
It's, and I'll go into the technical issues separately, but then when we came back and said, okay, let's really come back and how do we make something that's very accurate to the cartoon? Because when you talk about the toys, like Buzzsaw is green,
right?
Yellow blades. It's like, it doesn't even remotely look like the same guy. So we really wanted to come back and say, okay, let's make something that looks and feels like it came off the cartoon, which is, to your point, similar to what we're doing with Thundercats. In as much, those characters aren't really super metallic. They have sheens and lines that will pass over them, yes, but they're not super crazy metallic-y like the toys are. And so the paint that we're using, it doesn't show off as well. It's like we're matting everything down a little bit so that it looks like it's a cartoon, but we're using sort of a pearlized metallic blue on them. And what I'm really trying to do, which I'm not going to say is going to happen, because if I don't deliver it, then everybody will be mad. And it could have been so much cooler. The paint that I'm trying to develop is a pearlized coating over an automotive finish, where you go from like a blue to a silver. So you get that color change. You know what I'm talking about? Like when you see that car drives by and it starts as black, but then it looks purple. Mm-hmm. We're trying to do that automotive finish within the paint, but I don't know if that's going to pull off or not. But in the end, it'll be sort of these, they're kind of a darker blue-gray and a lighter blue-gray. And it'll be a lighter blue-gray metallic with like a pearl matte on it. So it'll still have sheen to it, but it's just not going to bling. And I think that's always the thing. It's like it can be a matte metallic and still look really beautiful and metallic. But with Silverhawks, you come back to that emotional knee jerk of like, but it's chrome.
Right.
And it's like, well, it's not chrome. We're trying to get to a metallic.
Is it all in the same ballpark as that? I think it's the second Ultimates Voltron based off the toy deco that you guys did. I mean, are we thinking more along that type of line? Because that has a really nice finish to it.
That's a little bit blingier than we want it to be, only because, that is a metallic paint. Because like the rest of the figure needs to be like the human parts or whatever need to be much more matted down. Mm-hmm. So if it's matted down and you have this really blingy metallic, they're going to fight. Yeah. So we're matting down with a pearl over the metallic so that the matte animation, skin tones, and other non-metallic colors match the paint tone of the rest of the figure. It will be lovely. No one will believe me till it arrives, but it will still be ugly. Lovely. It will still be metallic. It will still have shine. It's just not going to bling. and I think, you know, that's the hard part. And we knew that that was going to be part of the problem because of that, the love for the original toys. Now, secondarily, if we want to go into the process of vac metaling, it creates an entirely different set of issues for how you manufacture a toy. Technically, you can't, you can, when using vac metal, it's best to vac metal on ABS.
Mm-hmm.
You can technically, in some instances, vac metal PVC, but it's few and far between and it has a lot of restrictions. So for the most part, you can assume you can't vac metal PVC.
And Ultimates are mostly with their limbs made of PVC, right?
Most every action figure you have is made out of PVC. That's what allows that little bit of give and flexibility that ABS does not have, allows those joints, those friction joints in all your figures to actually work. That's what allows those things to have give, to move on top of each other. So when you take vac metal, if you were to talk about the parts that we have, there's sort of two things that would happen. One is it's a coating that happens on top. So you're going to increase the thickness and dimensions of all the parts, including, because you can't mask something before it gets vac metal, including all of the joinery pieces. So when I vac metal, say, an arm with a male end going into a shoulder going into a bicep with a female end, this part's going to get bigger, but all the stuff surrounding the hole is going to get bigger too. And so once you try to put those two things together, you're going to crack all the vac metal and get them to fit. And then you're going to run into spiderweb issues. And if you move into ABS, which is non-flexible, then those posts won't go in the other posts. It's not to say that we can't work our way around it and find other things. There's definitely other ways to do it. But you start to lean really heavily into, at that point, I'm really trying to replicate the toys, whereas obviously we're talking about the animated series. So, you know, there's sort of this fine line, but vac metal becomes very, very problematic for just simply the materials and how you manufacture a toy like this. There's ways to do it with modifying a lot of tooling, changing things, changing the material you make it out of, but it's a bit problematic. But that's why it's not like, oh yeah, we just vac metaled the whole thing. Like, we would have started with that because that would have gotten less ejections.
Got you. So maybe the whole vac metal process would lend itself more to something like, you know, a reaction style execution or something like that, right?
Well, reaction is still PVC and ABS, but if you're talking about something like Maria from Metropolis, which we did do vac metal, or C-3PO from the old Star Wars line that they vac metaled, they tooled that all about ABS. That's why you can't bend C-3PO's arms, but you can bend anybody else's arms a little bit. There's a little bit of give and flexibility where those didn't. Right. If you think about how loose those figures got, how quickly, because the ABS is, there's no give or play. So in the case of most friction joints, you know, they're exactly the same size, where for ABS to make it move, they have to make it slightly smaller. And so, because, you know, so it has give.
Well, I appreciate the explaining the thought process that you guys have gone through with a lot of this, with not only kind of making the animation realized in a nice way, but also the other technical challenges that it you know, presents. But you mentioned something about, you know, for the finish on these, kind of a silvery, bluey, you know, possible transition from one to another, and that brings up Quicksilver, because, you know, in the renders and whatnot that are in the PR photos and whatnot, I've heard some people comment that maybe he looks a little bluer than silver, or is that just like kind of the compensation for what the effect is going to go through as far as the paint goes, or are you guys skewing them closer to that kind of silverish blue?
You know, we're definitely skewing silverish blue. That's, if you look at the stills or you watch the animation, like their version of skewing everything so it's silver is skewing it blue. He's the lightest of them, so the blue is more obvious, where the rest of the team's almost like 40% gray with a blue tint. It's not gray with a red tint or gray with the green tint, they're gray with the blue tint. But because he's only like 25% gray, it's like his blue is a little bit more overt because there's not enough black to clog it all up.
Right.
So, you know, it's not super, it's not like, oh, it's powder blue, but it's also sort of that ongoing argument where you can hold up sort of like the Golden Gate Bridge. And it's like, is it orange or is it red?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's sort of both.
Yeah.
It depends on who's looking at it. Some people swear it's red. Some people swear it's orange.
Okay, well that's cool. I would imagine that, okay, since, you know, these guys are, it's a new process. It's like these guys have elements to them that even, I think, put them apart from past Ultimates that you guys have worked on. Has that already like impacted like your planning and scheduling for how these are going to move through production? Are these other new challenges presenting, you know, new opportunities and things to think through that a traditional figure that doesn't have these types of finishes doesn't present?
No, I think it's just, you know, not being able to go to China right now and really, it makes getting paint take that much longer.
Mm-hmm.
Sample, and we can get on a video call and I can say, I want you to do this and this and this. And you will go paint another sample. Like where I go to the factory, it's like, no, I'm trying to do this. Go upstairs. Half an hour later, a guy comes back down. What about, you know, we're mixing the paints there. It just slows. Sort of the dyeing and technology involved into those. A lot of those more reflective paints have different tints of broken glass, smashed powdered glass that's inside it. That's what gives it sort of some of the wink. There's a lot of different ways that they make those paints look like they are. So it's like, it's not just like, oh, let's make a cool paint like this. You have to go back and go, okay, what is the additive to the paint? And can I customize now that additive?
Gotcha. Okay. Well, the Hawks will be that way, but it seems like both Buzzsaw and Monstar kind of have that effect going. So, I mean, this is something for the metallic parts throughout the line. Is that what you're hoping to achieve, is kind of that same uniform, you know, effect that you're going to be going for with that?
Yeah, I mean, Buzzsaw is more of a, you know, metallic gold. Like his color doesn't shift as much. You know, you don't see the big chrome lines running across him the same way. So he'll be more of a straight gold, like we were not trying to get a shift on his colors. But yeah, ideally, if we can nail it, like as you turn that figure, you'll see that color move a little bit.
Wow. Well, that's cool. And speaking of Buzzsaw, I mean, we talked about how big Monstar is, and when you guys,
he's big ass too.
Yeah, did your PR, you did the scaling thing, but I mean, Buzzsaw looks like he's bigger than Bebop. Like that packaging is like choking to hold everything in there.
Yeah, he's huge. He's big, he's wide, he's dense. Like he's a giant box. You know, he's a big square. He's a really, really big figure. And he turned out really cool, you know.
And of course he has all of the, you know, namesake Buzzsaws on him. Are those going to spin or move, or are those more static? Oh yeah, okay, cool.
Well, of course they spin.
Yeah.
Of course they spin. They spin, and then he's got a variant head where it doesn't spin. So if you look at the heads, there's 3 heads. 2 of the heads have spinning blades in the head, and 1 has a fixed one. So if you want something simpler looking.
Okay, well, speaking of the heads, I mean, Buzzsaw, like we said, has taken up almost that entire package, but these figures, they're absolutely loaded with extras and accessories. And I think that the masked Silverhawks heads were things that people didn't really expect, but they kind of expected to have those come with that. And so I was, you know, anticipating seeing that, but what I was really curious about was what you guys were going to do for the wings effect, because I personally wasn't feeling, you know, cloth like the old days or whatnot, but you guys did completely swappable arms that makes it so that the sculpting's not broken up or anything else, because it makes sense that they swap out at the joints. How did you guys get to that?
Well, I mean, yeah, it's the same thing. Like how do you handle wings? I mean, we look back at a lot of the stuff we did on Sorceress and everything else, where it's like, okay, fabric looks one way. If you try to make it collapse, and swing on top of each other, it gets really bulky. It's hard to hide. There's a certain look that you want with that perfect, fan, where they're all on the same plane. We just kept coming back to, like, how do you do it? How do you make sure it matches up to the right part of the body? And in the end, it was like the only real way to make it look the way we want it to is to sort of make it a fixed piece.
Mm-hmm.
You can still articulate out, past the elbow. Well, not even mostly on the wrist because of how it's done. But it's like, if you're going to put it in flying pose, it's going to be in flying pose. There's not going to be like, oh, it's halfway in flying pose. So we just made the call to make it, a big winged piece that you could snap on instead.
Well, I think that looks great. And I saw in a conversation somebody, ask, I think very succinctly, was that because of, the soaring or the forward flying poses that these are going to have, are you guys accounting for that, like in the neck, so that, they can have their heads up and looking forward all the way? Because I think that probably takes a pretty good range of motion as far as the neck goes.
Yeah, and you've got to look at that. Basically, what it comes back down to is what the mass of the back of the neck looks like, so it can rotate back. But yeah, we are looking at that so that you can make them look up. Now, will we get a full 90-degree? I'm not sure about that, but we're looking at how we do that and not make it look awful when they're standing up.
Okay, that's great. And keeping with the heads, they all come with at least one alternate head. But Quicksilver is currently listed with two heads, the unmasked and the masked. But I've seen some people call out, and then when I kind of looked at it too, it kind of looked like there in some pictures from one shot to the next, there was a little variance in like him looking stern, or maybe not quite as stern. Is that a trick of the eye, or is there a third head hiding in there?
There's not a third head hiding in there yet, but we're gonna make a third head. Like we had a smiling head for him, but it just came out kind of like, it was like, he laughs at a couple jokes in there, and it was like, it didn't feel right, and so we pulled it. But then as we've looked at it, it's like he just feels like he needs another portrait. Mm-hmm. So we're working on a couple different options right now to see what the right second portrait would be, so you have more than one head option. So we're gonna add another head to him, but I don't know what it is yet, because the smiling one just didn't look like him.
Yeah, he's the straight man of the group, right? So yeah, it's like I understand that. Well, I'll be excited to see that, but maybe even more so than the extra heads, the cyborg birds companions were something that everybody was expecting to see. But then for the Silverhawks in particular, I mean, you're giving us two versions of them, perched and soaring. I mean, that's pretty awesome. And is that pretty much what we can expect, going forward with the birds as far as that go, where it's appropriate?
Yeah, most of the Silverhawks themselves, you have two versions of the birds. Mm-hmm. With when you get to the villains typically have a bird with swappable wings. Mm. So, then you can have sort of an A/B with those, but instead of sort of like two full-blown different birds. But like, if you're talking about, Quicksilver, you have to have Tallyhawk up on that arm,
He starts
it's got to look that way. And then it's like, okay, well, this is what he looks like flying. And, so, yes.
Well, that's great. And the birds, they even took on different forms. Like I think they turned into handcuffs at some point too. So I mean, nothing's out of the realm of possibility where appropriate, right? Okay, well, even more accessories than what I don't think I was personally expecting is that you guys also included a lot of effect pieces here, which isn't
blasts and stuff.
Yeah. Huh? To Ultimates, but I mean, you kind of going all out on this, and it looks like they kind of key or plug into various places. What made Silverhawks right?
Quicksilver and Steelhawk, you get the laser blasts that come out of the shoulders and then come up, and then with Monstar, you've got the back of the elbows and the back of the ankles. Plus, then you have the blasting star out of his eye.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm excited to see that, because it makes me start thinking about, well, what else could be out there with, like, you know, bluegrass and Melodia's got some of those musical note things. I think there's a lot of opportunities for some cool effects that have never been done before, because those music effects might have a lot of applications all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, these figures that you know are up for pre-order now. It's obvious that they're shown mostly in render to kick it off, and we know that the sophistication of the process with digital sculpting and all of that has really gotten to the point where these are really pretty good indicators of what the final product is going to look like. But are we going to, you know, see as production moves on and whatnot, you know, how the paint options that you're talking through, are you guys going to be sharing stuff like that as we kind of move through the process? I know it's early yet, but I think people are probably anxious to see that kind of thing.
Yeah. Obviously, you know, for us, we're already, you know, where we were in the past with Ultimates and where we're still getting out of, you know, was basically like, hey, we have to make sure enough people are willing to buy this. What are we doing? So we'll go to tooling after we run the pre-order. In the case of Silverhawks, you know, we sent it off for tooling before the pre-order even started. Like, we're going to make these. Wow. So we felt very confident in it that we would be making it. So once we actually start getting real plastic and shot in the right colors, but that could be plus months away at least, then we can really start on paint. In the meantime, I can start doing stuff, but we're literally doing paint samples on reaction figures and different things. Like, what does this paint look like on here? What does this paint look like on there? So we'll see how it, you know, comes out. And then once it's on the real figure, that's when you really know. So, like, you know, in the case of renders, you're still digitally painting those things,
right?
Making them look as close as you can. Like with this, it's like, hey, it's got to be pearlized. It's got to be matted down a little bit, where people are like, where's the shine? It's like the shine is in there, but it's like, it's not as blingy as you're expecting. So.
Okay. All right. Well, it's a process, obviously. And, you know, you have these currently slated to ship, I think, Q2 of next year, which pretty much tracks with the normal Ultimates production timeline.
There you are.
Oh, there I am. So that's tracking about right. But, you know, I don't want to get too far ahead of our wings of steel here. But in the press release that kind of went out with these, you said that, you know, we can expect more announcements and offerings even before the close of this year. So it sounds like you guys have got your game plan together and a roadmap of characters and all of that all set at this point. Yeah.
Oh, I'm looking at sculpts.
Oh. That's fantastic, because you know, I think a lot of, for fans of Silverhawks, it's easy for them to, I think, go to the show or the vintage figures and say, hey, these guys make sense for figures and Ultimates. But, you know, there were characters on the show, or even obscure characters that never really had a chance to get figures. Are you guys kind of, you know, planning on treating Silverhawks the same way you do Ninja Turtles and Thundercats? That, you know, we're going to see these, you know, guys like Yes Man or people like that, right?
Exactly. Like, the point is to get in there and get in and make the stuff you don't need me to make the figures you already have. Like, let's make some of the more interesting things that you don't have. In this case, obviously, we're sort of doing it in a new way, in a new format. So there's some main characters to make. But yeah, the interesting stuff is the all of it, not just like, let's hit the 4 greatest hits and move on.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in the whole album, not just a single.
Yeah, those deep tracks are often what make the, you know, overall album the best piece, to keep it that way. Do you have a particular? I mean, it's easy to say that the impressive Monstar is easily one to.
Yeah, it's hard to beat Monstar.
Yeah.
You know, it's got so many good. He's just such a big character, figuratively and within the show.
Yeah.
Especially if you deal with first version Monstar versus armored Monstar and everything.
So Well, and that kind of takes me to the next part is that, Monstar, I think, lends himself to a variant possibility, obviously, because he's got, the first version and whatnot. But, you kind of touched on like Buzzsaw before. And we've seen things in like the Ninja Turtles line where we've got the Bug Zapper, Baxter Stockman, and the new Mutagen Man that are coming out. I mean, Buzzsaw was pretty different from toy to cartoon, as you mentioned. I mean, are those kinds of variations possible down the road? Are you guys thinking about that, or is that something that you kind of want to focus on that single source right now?
I mean, obviously it's impossible to not think about. I mean, it's no different than everybody else that's on, that's starting to like, ooh, I wonder if later they'll make a recolor of him in green. I mean, we've all had the same conversation, like, oh, I wonder if later we can recolor him in green. Yeah, it's definitely something we've talked about a lot. Obviously, right now, the important part is to get Monstar out. I'm sorry, we're talking about Buzzsaw, but like get Buzzsaw out. And then once we get Buzzsaw out, then I feel like it's appropriate to have a discussion on whether or not people want Buzzsaw in green or not, and if there's a time and place for that.
Yeah.
But I don't want to be just like, oh yeah, here's a whole bunch of variants of the same thing. It's, I like making variants, obviously, if anybody's familiar with what we do, because I like all the characters. So it's like, oh yeah, I want to see that guy in orange and in blue and in green.
I'll take Hardware in any color scheme you want to go with. I promise. He can be pink.
Who? Sorry.
Hardware.
Okay, there you go. Yeah, that's the whole thing. It's like I enjoy that. There's other people that really don't. It's like, I want it to look like the guy. And when it doesn't look like the guy, I feel like you're just trying to milk me for money. And it's like, okay, well, then this recolor is not for you. But what I don't want to do is go out with something like the green one, make people feel like they have to buy that one and then come back to get the one they want.
Right.
So let me give you the real
the one that fits with everything else. Yeah,
here's the one. And if you're that guy that also wants the additional things, then let's talk about the additional things and see what's possible.
Cool. Well, we mentioned things that go on with other lines in Ultimate and I would be remiss to not bring up, I think, that Thundercats and some of these others, I mean, they have play sets, they have vehicles, they have possible vehicles that may be coming. I mean, I can't imagine what something like a Skyrunner would look like in a line like this, but I mean, are those, other options to build onto this line something that you guys are keeping open to?
Yeah, I think all of this is, as many people know, is still a big learning curve even for us. Snake Mountain was the first giant playset we did. Then we did Thunder Tank, and same thing. Do we think it's going to work? Is it not going to work? We don't know. Let's give it a shot, and it worked out. We've got another vehicle in the works for hopefully end of this year, which I feel pretty good.
Pretty cowabunga about.
I can't say, but I'm fairly confident that fan and the people that are buying those toys from us will also want that vehicle. And it's no different. It's like, okay, then let's come back around. Like, is that fan base willing to buy in that figure or that vehicle? And I say that only because, once again, it's scale, it's space, it's expensive, and then you've got to sell a lot of them to make it work. And there's also the reality at some point with some people, especially if they're into it, is like, I have a Snake Mountain, and I have, a Thunder Tank, and I have a vehicle to be determined. And it's like, at a certain point, there's only so many of those that you can have in your house or your collection. So I also want to be somewhat respectful as best I can to what I'm offering and asking people to get behind. So is a Skyrunner off the table? By no means. Is it imminent? By no means. Like we're a week into the first pre-order of the first wave of Silverhawks. It seems to be that people are very excited. it's going well. I am encouraged that we're going to be able to, if we can keep this level of excitement up, that we'll be able to get deep into the line. And if we can get deep into the line, then I believe that there are people there that will buy a Skyrunner. But if it's like, okay, wave one does pretty good, and then wave two comes out and no one cares, it's going to be very difficult for me to, not difficult, I mean, even if I put it out, I don't have complete confidence that that fan base would come back out to buy it. So we'll see. Like right now, all indications are that people are reacting line no different than they reacted to the Thundercats line, which is we're very excited about it. We're very happy to get these toys into our hands, and we'd like to see it continue on. So I'm feeling very confident in Silverhawks at the moment.
Well, that's great to hear, because you did bring up the fan base, and we can talk about Thundercats and Ninja Turtles in comparison to Silverhawks as far as like the figures go. But in terms of the property and the media and the fan base, I mean, Thundercats and Ninja Turtles have had other things going on with them a lot more recently. So you guys are kind of leading the charge with bringing Silverhawks, I think, back to the fore. And I hope what that means is that fans who may not have caught this, first pre-order, or those that might come later because they discovered it, are you guys, kind of taking that mindful approach too, that, hey, if this happens and the demand is there, being able to go back and give people the opportunity to maybe get that core Hawks group or whatnot later on. Is that something like the Ninja Turtles that you guys would, think through to do, if that makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, if we get to that point, yes. It's not my job to make these things hard or difficult or painful or without joy to collect.
There's a lot of that out there anyway.
I think it's a catch-22 on the retail side of it all, but we're not on the retail side, and and that's why we try to do the open pre-order. It's like we've got a month, everybody can get in if they want. Invariably, there's people that miss it. Invariably, we see that there are a lot of people that don't have confidence in what we're doing until it actually lands, which is not without merit. And once it lands, we definitely see that there's a spike in interest in what we've made, but that doesn't mean that it's justifies going back and remaking it. Right. I think what we came really back with was obviously the secondary market was moving on the Turtles in a pretty significant way. And then more than anything is like, if you want to jump in and collect Turtles from us, but you can't get the 4 core Turtles, are you going to?
Right.
And so I don't want to make it hard for people, but at the same time, I also don't want to make it so that like, hey, thank you for putting up your money in the beginning to help us get this line started. Oh, by the way, we're just going to give it away again.
Right.
It's a fine line, but I can't control in any way, shape, or form, nor can I predict what the secondary market is going to do with our toys, because Lord knows, like, there's no telling. It's obviously a great thing for the people that buy our toys and support our toys, that if they move on the secondary market, that they're worth more than they paid for them. That's great. That's not necessarily my goal. My goal is that no matter what, this toy is always worth as much as you paid for it. I don't want to make it like you paid $55 for the Silverhawks, and 2 years later, there's a container of them sitting at Big Bad Toy Store on clearance.
Right.
That's what I don't want to happen. So by the very nature of it, it means there's not really any extras for anybody new to come in. But getting another run up and running again, or taking factory time from another thing already being made, becomes problematic. So it's something that we'll constantly readdress. I'm not looking to go back and be like, okay, now we need to make all the other characters from Turtles. There's a bit of like, we made Baxter Stockman.
Yeah.
Like, we've moved on. But there's a certain point where you have to be like, like, it's the 4 core Turtles. They need to be available. We need to make those available again.
Yeah.
So, yeah, if all of a sudden, I don't want to put any unrealistic expectations on Silverhawks, but if all of a sudden a year and a half from now, Silverhawks is the hottest thing going, you know, I would be remiss not to say, hey, come and get your core characters.
Yeah.
We might not make Buzzsaw again,
Right.
but you can get, you know, Steelheart and Quicksilver, and you can get your Silverhawks.
Yeah. Well, that's great to hear, because, you know, I think this means a lot to Silverhawks fans to see them brought into, you know, a preeminent modern action figure line after, you know, not being as apparent for the last several years, and it gets to join.
Not being apparent since the 80s, you mean?
Yeah. but they do get to join Thundercats and Masters and whatnot. But I'm going to go ahead and go here, even though it's cringy, because I see it, and I just want to make sure that you're ready, because much
You're
like
ready for people asking me when I'm making Tiger Sharks?
Oh my God! So because all it was with Silverhawks when Thundercats started. So are you ready for the barrage, and has it already started with Tiger Sharks?
Oh yeah, you're getting the moment that it was 5 minutes in. Awesome, Silverhawks. Where's Tiger Sharks?
Yeah.
Like, I haven't even finished this one yet. So yeah, I mean, we'll hope I hope to get there.
Yeah.
I'll just put it that way. I hope to get there.
As Lloyd Christmas says, you're telling me there's a chance.
Exactly. I'm telling you there's a chance. That chance is not going to come till I get through some Silverhawks.
Yeah.
But, you know, yeah, we've talked about what that would take, and yeah, but it's also sort of like, well, let's get Silverhawks going.
Yeah,
exactly. That going. And then we can determine if we can jump into Tiger Sharks.
Thunderhawk Sharks.
Yeah. Thunder Shark Hawks.
Yeah, Thunder Shark Hawks. I like
yeah,
it.
It's the same thing. I mean, really coming into this, you know, we felt pretty good about Silverhawks, but we, you know, to be fair on our side, we said, okay, well, we think it 2/3 of a regular pre-order, maybe, because nothing's been made.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not going to be the biggest thing, but you know, it should be fine. And so far, it looks like it's going to be a full-blown normal pre-order.
That's
so
awesome.
I assume my sound is still coming through.
Yeah. Well, yes. Sorry. And I was gonna say, I mean, I think at this point, though, when you say that, I think it shows excitement for Silverhawks, but also, do you feel like this far in now that Ultimates as an execution and kind of a brand has kind of established itself to make it so to help along these things, that so they are kind of, you know, all falling close to, you know, what you expect them to be or above. I think that it's that continuity even within the line itself that is a big thing out there now too. Do you guys think that you're getting there as far as that goes?
I think so. I mean, we're definitely feeling and seeing that more people are interested in the line than used to be as a whole. People are starting to understand. It's still a nonstop barrage, which I'm going to have to do a video about at some point and post on our website of why don't you use double jointed knees and elbows?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I don't use double jointed knees and elbows because most of the time your figure stands on the shelf or in pose. Double jointed knees and elbows are great for elaborate poses, but most of the time, that's not how I see my figure. Mm-hmm. And in doing so, I have to cut a giant chunk out of the middle of each arm and each back of each knee, plus put all the extra, you know, the hexagon in front of the knee and everything. All I see is articulation and the loss of the body type, where if I go to a single jointed knee, when that figure is standing there, I have a solid leg. I have a solid arm. And it looks more like the character. I can still do 90% of the articulation that I can do without, you know, double jointed knees and elbows, but I gain so much more aesthetically. And it's just a very interesting dynamic from people that are like, no, more articulation equals more value or modern. And I'm like, right. We're making a conscious aesthetic choice to not do double jointed knees and elbows and not have pins in knees and elbows or ankles. And that you know, everybody's got their opinion on the spectrum of where they want to be. A lot of guys want to pose it all crazy, never do it, put it back on the shelf standing up, but just knowing that they could is more important to them. And my take is it's more important to me that I can maintain as much of the look of the character as possible and hide as much articulation as possible. So.
Well, but even towards that end, I mean, it looks to me that the Silverhawks, you know, they have this kind of new to Ultimates maybe torso joint.
Yeah, we're you know, and this becomes a definite sort of point where we're trying to, you know, it's still evolving. Like, you know, we're going into, most of those have more of a torso swivel than a traditional ab crunch. Mm-hmm. And the torso swivel hides the articulation more. It technically doesn't usually bend forward near as much, but it gains additional left to right, mm-hmm. Which is better, which is worse. In this case, the designs of the characters better to a torso swivel. So that's where we went with Silverhawks. But, you know, with Thundercats, though, we've been making it ab crunch the entire time. So do you switch partway through? Do you stick with ab crunch? Ab crunch is one of those where I think people really like it, the fact that it's there, but mm-hmm. no one ever uses it. Mm-hmm. Unless your figure is doing sit-ups, most people never have cause to use the ab crunch. So, you know, yeah. So in this case, the Ultimates have moved into, for Silverhawk specifically, because it seemed to lend itself to the designing of the characters better, to have more of that torso swivel instead. But yeah, I think we're definitely starting to have a bit of a look where people can be like, okay, my Turtles can hang out with my Thundercats, which can hang out with my Conan figures, which can hang out with this. And I think people have more confidence that we're actually, you know, I think that the big thing early on with us was, is it actually going to show up? Like, I don't want to pay for a pre-order if this company is going to go out of business, you know, kind of thing. And now that we're actually delivering, and especially once Thundercats 2 and 3 show up here in the coming months, I think that a lot of that will really fall away, because it's like, okay, now stuff is coming out on a regular basis, because, you know, in the next 3 or 4 months, the amount of stuff leaving the factory is kind of mind-boggling.
well, I want to talk about that here, but you know, I was glad to see that, as you said, these within the Ultimates, they all kind of fit together. But you know, people were kind of saying that, oh, Silverhawks, they were going to have those same really muscular body types that Masters and Thundercats had, but you guys really went with that streamlined look that still definitely fits in. So I really like the difference there, but the fact that it still very much feels like an Ultimates figure.
yeah, I still feel like they family really well, but you know, you want to be appropriate to the trying to think of the right word, but like, I keep wanting to say media, but it's not really the media, but the property. Like, mm-hmm. what makes more sense for Silverhawks? We should sculpt this slightly differently. It's not, you know, Masters or even Thundercats to a degree. Like, those are big, ripped out muscle guys. And while Silverhawks are, it's definitely much more slimmed down and, you know, streamlined in their execution. So finding that interpretive, it's not really a middle ground, but the right way to interpret that into a figure is sort of key.
I mean, they essentially become bullets in outer space, so you got to have some lithe or you know, less resistant body type to meet that. So that's awesome. Well, okay, so we can get on to some of these shipping updates too. I wanted to see what else are we, you know, wanting to discuss, or are you wanting to get out there as far as the Silverhawks first pre-order goes? Because you said it's open still. It's been open for a couple weeks now, so we've got, you know, 2-3 weeks left.
I think we're 1 week in.
Yeah, oh gosh.
Because I think it dropped last Friday.
Wow, really? Is that all it's been? Wow. All right. Well,
6 days in as at time of recording.
Wow, that's crazy.
It just feels like forever ago.
Yeah. But between now and, you know, what else are we, you know, wanting to make sure that we get out there as far as, you know, Silverhawks go between now and the end of the pre-order?
I don't think I'll have something where I can put paint in front of everybody, but I know that that would be a big one for a lot of people where they can be like, oh, okay, I see what you're talking about in paint now. Because, it's the same thing where it's like, it's Silver Hawks. And it's like, well, the toys were Silver Hawks. Yeah. But like, yes, there will be metallics to it, like where people are like, it's just too flat. It's too flat. It's too flat. It's like, I don't have the paint to show you, but yes, it will have that. That would obviously make a lot of other people's nerves, I think, a little quieter. We're going to work on another head for Quicksilver, or we are working on another head for Quicksilver. But I think the rest of it's pretty much sort of, cruising along. And I don't think there's a whole lot else to get out there, at least right now.
Yeah.
The other thing that we've been asked about that we didn't talk about is people keep like, are you going to make any flying stands for them? And I'm like, no, I didn't even go there, but like,
yeah,
that would be a little tricky, especially as you get into later waves and different shapes of characters.
And where the hell would you fit them in those boxes right now?
Well, there's no way we could do it that way. But yeah, I mean, there's, I'm just really excited that the pre-order is moving well.
Yeah.
It's sort of like,
I'm glad to hear it.
Well, because it was one of those things where it's like, as you said, this many people know about Turtles. This many people know about Thundercats. I went to Thunder Tank.
Thundershark Hawks.
Then, Silverhawks, you're starting to come back down. It's a much, much more obscure property. But there are a lot of people with an affinity for it. So are those people going to come out? Are they not? You just never know with any of these lines what's going to work and what's not. And I'm very happy that it's cruising along, because that means we can keep making it rather than like, oh, it didn't really go like we hoped.
Well, then, to keep making it, then if things go to schedule as planned, because so many things change, I mean, is it reasonable to expect that we'll see another pre-order before the end of the year?
That's the plan. That's the plan. The ideal plan, I think we talked about before, is like to get on a cadence where, with how long it takes to manufacture these things, there's sort of 2 pre-orders out. And by the time the first one delivers, that's when you open the third one. By the time the second one delivers, that's when you do the fourth one. And so you're constantly moving in sort of these 4 to 5 month increments of how often you have something available.
Awesome. Well,
which is why we don't have Thundercats Wave 5 out.
Well, and that was, you had the perfect segue into that. Because speaking of Thundercats, last week I got a couple of emails with updates about Series 2 and Series 3 shipping soon, and we did talk about that a little bit.
Shipping from
the factory. Yes. We did talk about that a little bit last time, but now it seems like things have obviously changed. Where are we? I mean, is production winding down at this point? Are we full blown into it?
Wait, he's gonna come back.
There it is. There it is. So
things have obviously.
Yeah, obviously things are moving. Is production winding down? Is it like in full blown right now? Where are we as far as that goes?
Yeah, they're in full blown production right now. Like I said, Wave 3 is scheduled to come out of the factory here in July. Wave 2 in August, and then Wave 4 right now is scheduled for October.
So, okay.
Yeah, so it's going to be like a month of Thundercats, another month of Thundercats, a month off, another month of Thundercats.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of Thundercats coming.
So 3 is gonna is likely gonna hit us first. I mean, is it the plan that is
guaranteed 3 is gonna hit first?
Okay, guaranteed. So once 3 delivers, then I mean, is that when 5's gonna go up?
I don't know. Part of me feels like it would be, that's what you're supposed to do, but part of me feels like I would be very remiss to put 5 up before 2 lands. Just because 2 has taken so extraordinarily long. Like 2 has taken, even by our standards, far too long. So I'm a bit remiss to put wave 5 up without not even delivering wave 2.
Okay.
And considering that it's only a month afterwards,
Yeah.
My feeling is that we probably wait on wave 5 until wave 2 has left. And the question will be, do we do it when wave 2 is in people's hands, which is the best idea, or do we do it once it's actually shipped from the factory and we know it's coming and we can tell people and show them? I don't know the answer to that. Business-wise, the sooner the better.
Yeah.
But being a rational human, I find it difficult to say that we should deliver that or offer that up before we really follow through on the last couple of things.
Well, yeah, that makes sense, and I think a lot of people are appreciative of that. And but the one thing leads to the next as far as that goes. So really, we're going to be getting an incredible amount of Thundercats added to our collections between now and, let's say, November-ish. But then because of this, 5 will be then a little bit removed as far as, delivering from the rest of them.
Unless you get a Thunder Tank in between.
Exactly. So we'll have the Thunder Tank there, but then with hopefully the world trying to get itself back to the place it's going to be, then it's probably reasonable to think that then after 5 and beyond, then things will hit more of that normal pattern.
Yeah, I think across the board, we're getting much more efficient on how these things are getting out. We're able to release some stuff a little bit earlier. There's a couple future products that we're working on where, it's not really ready to come out for another month and a half, 2 months, but we're pretty much done with it now. So we can get that going earlier than we typically would go on stuff like that. So that's the good news, is that hopefully we'll be speeding up some of the process as we move along.
Well, I'll be ready to hold that slide right here as soon as he lands, because man, I am looking forward to that. But last time we talked, if you're like me and you're also a Ninja Turtle collector, we should be expecting to see Rocksteady and crew even before Thundercats, right?
Oh yeah. Those were on the water quite some time ago. No, let me rephrase that. I know 30, I'm trying to think, because I was looking at manifests on shipping. A third of it's already here.
Oh.
I think in the next week or two, the rest of it will be here.
Wow.
And then we start shipping it out. So yeah, Turtles Wave 3 is imminent.
That's awesome. What about 4?
I don't know. I don't have that.
Last time it was August. Or are we still kind of tracking?
Yeah, all that stuff is still right on track.
Okay.
All that stuff is still right on track.
Okay.
That has become a fairly well-oiled machine. There's certain licenses or certain factories that have become problematic. Thundercats Wave 2 problematic, and JPW 2 is problematic, and yet other licenses and things like, Turtles and now Thundercats 3 Plus, like they're moving along. They're doing what they're supposed to do. Everything's going according to plan.
Well, that's awesome. So hopefully we'll be seeing another Turtles before too long too. But Turtles 5 didn't close all that long ago, but where are we at as far, where's that in terms of the kind of production phase that it's in right now? Do you know? Off the top
I think we're still in the tooling phase, because I haven't seen test shots on Turtles 5 yet.
Okay, cool. Well, then there are a few other things floating around out there that I wanted to kind of check in on because we talked about them last time as far as their shipping updates go. But Transformers has got to be getting semi-close to us. Transformers 1.
I don't know off the top of my head. That would definitely be, this would be the one where I'd have to pull up like a shipping manifest. We go, okay, where's everything? What are the X factory dates? What's booked cargo? What hasn't booked cargo? But it's moving along.
Yeah.
I can't say off the top of my head right now exactly where that one is. It mostly because, it's like, that one's not, I can tell you exactly to the day where everything Thundercats is, because it's a problem and I need to get this problem solved. Currently, Transformers is not a problem, so I don't know.
Okay. Well, I have to ask about this one too, simply because I seem to see you get dogged by maybe even just one person in particular. But how about Ghost and King Diamond and the heavy metal guys? Those guys have got to be getting close to
Yeah, they leave in July as well.
July. Oh, okay,
Yeah.
awesome. And what about that Danzig Ultimate that I think is going to be out there at some point? You tempted with the shirt today, man. I had to go there.
No,
I just ordered my newest Fiend yesterday.
we're still working on trying to get Glenn locked down. Hopefully, sooner rather than later,
yeah,
we'll be able to offer Glenn Danzig to you.
well, I'm ready for it, and maybe even all the mothers are too. So.
Oh yeah, there's Glenn in the Misfits. There's Glenn and Samhain. There's Glenn and Danzig. There's a lot of iterations of him.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of places to go.
Well, okay, then maybe finally the last one that I have to touch on, just because I'm so excited about the little tease that you gave us last time we talked, is that are we getting, more imminent to, you said that there's a pretty good chance that we might see some Friends for Toxie here before too long.
Yeah, no, it's not exactly imminent, but we're working on it. We're working on some Toxie Friends.
Okay. Well, then finally.
Because we need some Toxie Friends.
We need some Toxie Friends and foes.
True.
But finally, okay. Last time you said that come mid-July, and now it's scheduled for July 15th. There's going to be some big announcement for Ultimates. So I'm not going to really go there yet, because I want you guys to do your thing. And hopefully maybe we'll get to chat again not long after that. But anything else you want to try to torture us with while we wait for the next 4 weeks to pass at what I'm sure is a horribly slow pace?
No. I mean, obviously right now, the big excitement is around Silverhawks. It's great to get that product out there. July is going to be a great month. We've got a big old hoedown we're going to throw on the 15th, and then we've got San Diego right behind that, or the fake San Diego behind that. No, there's a lot of really interesting, cool stuff in the works. I think there's some stuff that's going to surprise people. There's some stuff that people are going to be like, "Oh, I totally expected that," and just really trying to have some fun with everything. I think that's really what we're trying to do with it right now, and it seems to be working, which is great.
Yeah,
which is great.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear the success of Thundercats. Or Silverhawks. Now I'm doing it. I'm happy that I've got my order in for them, and kind of relieved too, because it really was it made so much sense from a lot of perspective to have those kind of fit in with the rest. And but I'm probably just as guilty of it as any other collector. It's always what's next. So I'm excited to see what's going to be next, because as we said, it's a lot of fun getting all of these properties kind of under this same umbrella, and I'm really excited to see where we're going to be going over the next couple of years.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. At least I'm having fun. I just hope that other people are having fun with us. And I'm really hoping that while for a lot of people, I think they're coming around to it. Like, I hate to call it our business model on this, but like the way we do it is very different than most everybody else. But I think it ensures that a lot more people can be involved. Level playing field. It's not, the one guy that gets to target before everybody else and buys all 20 that got stocked so he can sell them on eBay at a markup. Like, we're trying to do it differently than that.
It's nice to be able to plan for being able to say, It's this time on this day, I can go and click the button, sit here and just be happy, and it's going to get here, and I don't have to do anything else to get the toys that I want. It's a relief in the midst of a lot of other madness that's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it doesn't have that instant satisfaction when you can just pick it up and have it in the box. But I think, I hope that the satisfaction when it arrives is then the buildup is that the present is just as good, if not better, than you thought it was going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely proving to be the case with this. So I appreciate your time, but I want to make sure, is there anything else that we want to cover off before we kind of end it for you know, the third Ultimates Fwooshcast?
No, I mean, I just thank you again to everybody that believes in what we're doing and buys the toys that we make. That's what allows us to go make the next toy. And, you know, we're getting to live the dream. So this is great fun. And thank you for buying our toys, because that allows me to make stuff. I like making stuff. I want to make more stuff.
Fun, cool stuff at that, for sure. Well, thank you very much, as always, for your time. And if we can, I mean, let's set it. Let's talk again after that July 15th announcement, because I'm excited, just in anticipation for seeing what's going to happen. But I'm going to bet, regardless of whatever it is, there's going to be a lot to talk about.
There's going to be some fun stuff to talk about. I think people will be pumped.
All right. Well, once again, Brian, thank you very much for joining us, and look forward to all the things shipping soon. Looking forward to the next pre-order. Looking forward to Silverhawks to continue to be successful. It's a lot. I'm excited, but we are always appreciative. And for everybody else, thanks for joining us again for another special Ultimates edition of the Fwooshcast, and we will catch you next time. Thank you very much. Bye.